Well, good morning, everyone. Let me say it's an absolute joy and delight for me to be with you today in a rather dreich Coventry. I almost feel as if I've been sent here today, but it's so good to be with you and good to see the musicians here and Pastor as well, and I very much appreciate the warm welcome, as well as a good cup of coffee and even the live singing and worship of our living God. I just want to say a big thank you to all of you again as a church family. Your support prayerfully and financially is nothing short of amazing. It keeps me on the road out there serving the Lord Jesus here, there and yonder, and who knows what 2021 will bring for every one of us. The quicker we get back to some kind of so-called normality, I'm sure you'll feel better, and I certainly will as well. I was massively encouraged when Ben said just a few minutes ago that this was one of his favourite psalms. And if you found yourself ever in hospital, the chances are he read this particular psalm to you, or at least a little portion of the psalm. And you know, if I were to be honest with you today, for me, Psalm 139 is way up there, certainly in my top 3. I absolutely love these words. In many ways, it's a folk song of faith. And I think what we have right here is an all-time classic. Now, we're left to no doubt as to who penned this particular psalm. It's our friend David, aka the Shepherd King, sometimes also known as the sweet psalmist of Israel. And if you know anything about David, you'll appreciate that, hey, this guy has had his fair share of ups and downs of life. But there's nothing strange or startling about that. It's just like you, and certainly just like me as well. We can say about David that he's been through the best of times, but has also been through the worst of times. And yet, did you see what he says down there in verse 12? To you, the night shines as bright as day. Darkness and light are both alike to you. In other words, David finds inspiration in who God is. And what is so amazing this morning is this, that as God reveals himself to his servant David, David doesn't do a proverbial runner. No. He doesn't feel threatened in any way at all. But you know what he does? He sits down one day, picks up the quill, gets out the parchment, and he pens these fairly upbeat words. Why does he do it? Well, he wants to brighten your day and mine as well. Basically, he wants to cheer us up on the journey of life. He wants to tell us a message we desperately need to hear at the end of 2020, that our God is bigger than all our problems. And I'm sure you say a hearty amen to that as well. You see, folks, it makes a world of difference to you and to me when we see God in his true colours. I just think there's a danger we all face, and it's simply this. For you and for me, unwittingly, and I'm sure unintentionally, we try to downsize God. In other words, for whatever reason, we want to bring him down to our level. We want to fit him, as it were, into a pigeonhole of our own making. And maybe some of us are guilty of doing just that, dumbing down God. If we are, these amazing words penned by David will get us back on the right track. In a nutshell, the psalmist is screaming at the top of his voice something like this: think big thoughts about God. Think big thoughts about God. Because essentially, that's what the psalm is all about. It's all about God. From start to finish, it's all about him. I mean, he's there in every single verse. You can't miss seeing him in Psalm 139. And like one of old, we come before the psalm on bended knee, with hearts that are overflowing with gratitude and thanksgiving, and we stand in awe of him. It just seems to me David is answering the question folks are asking today: what is God like? What is God like? It reminds me of a story I heard a little while ago about wee Johnny. And wee Johnny found himself in Sunday club when things were fairly normal. And Johnny, as kids are these days, tended to be a little bit bored. And so instead of listening to what the teacher was sharing from the Bible, do you know what Johnny was doing? He was sitting down there in a wee world of his own, and he was doodling on a piece of paper. The teacher noticed out of the corner of her eye that Johnny wasn't giving him her full attention, and so she went over to where Johnny was sitting, doodling, and she asked him, "Hey Johnny, what are you doing? What are you drawing?" And like a flash of lightning, Johnny cried back, "Well, I'm drawing a picture of God." Now you can imagine the teacher was taken aback by that quick retort from Johnny, but when she finally regained her composure, this is what she said. But Johnny, no one has any idea what God really looks like." If she thought Johnny was quick the first time, he was faster the second time around, and she said, "Well, miss, they will when I get done." Now, I think that's a real good story. And that's exactly what you have right here in Psalm 139. It's like you and I turning over the pages of a family photograph album, and on every single page, we have a stunning, eye-catching portrait of what God looks like. And so right here, in this particular psalm, here are 4 things God wants you and me to know about himself. Let me summarize them ever so quickly for you. Number 1, God knows everything. He is omniscient. Number 2, God is everywhere. In other words, he is omnipresent. Number 3, as we shall discover in a few minutes' time, God can do anything. He is omnipotent. And number 4, in the final stanza, God will deal with everyone. And here is a God who is omnicompetent. So there are 4 stanzas in this particular psalm, each one having 6 verses. And the open invitation from the psalmist to your heart and mine this morning is simply this: behold our God. Behold our God. So I think we can write in big bold letters over the first stanza something like this: God's perception is astonishing. God's perception is astonishing. Now, simply put, and I said reverently when I said, that means that your God and my God is a know-all. It simply tells me there's absolutely nothing he does not already know. Now, it depends how you look at that today, doesn't it? For some of you, you may find that a wee bit scary, a tad intimidating. It may frighten you. But I'm sure for many of us who are listening and watching today, we find that to be massively reassuring, to be able to affirm individually and collectively something like this: God knows. God knows. And in many ways that says all that needs to be said, and it's right there in verse 1. And you see what David is doing here, don't you? He comes to a single conclusion. Do you know what it is? God knows all there is to know about me. And God knows all there is to know about you. He knows my heart. You see that opening verse in the psalm? The thought behind the word searched. It means to explore. It means to examine. It means to dig down deeply. It's like you and I trying to get to the bottom of something. Now, we are watching today and listening today, and we take a look at one another in the room, or even for a few of us here in the church building, and we see what's on the outside. And that's fine, that's okay. But the living Lord comes along, and he sees underneath what's on the outside. He scrapes every veneer away. He knows the very depths of our inmost being. He sees into your life and into mine what no one else is able to see. He knows what makes us tick. Let me put it like this: he can read your life and mine as if he were reading the proverbial book. God knows all there is to know about me and you. And then you see what the psalmist does down there. in verse 2 down to verse 5. He sort of amplifies his thinking. And basically right there, he covers every eventuality in life. Okay? Not a single stone is left unturned. So we can summarize it like this, can't we? It doesn't matter where we go. It doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter what we think. It doesn't matter what we say. It doesn't matter what we feel. ... You get the message? God knows all about it. So he not only knows my heart, he also knows my actions. And the psalmist is reminding us here of a sweet truth, a precious promise, that every moment of every day, every step, each mile along life's way, you and I are surrounded by him. Here is the one who goes before us, but here is the one who follows close behind us. And thankfully, here is the one who is right there beside us. I tell you, my friends, you can't get any better than that. And that's a reminder one more time, isn't it? That your God and mine has a profound interest in every one of us who are his children. Here is a God who runs the entire show from beginning to end. He keeps his eye on the big picture. But is also very much aware of the small print on the underside of the document that is your life and mine. Let me put it like this. He knows what you and I do when we come home of an evening. We sit down, grab a bite to eat. We do stuff on Facebook perhaps, or we catch up on emails, or we send a few texts to our mates. He knows all about that. He knows when we're out there on the go, on the M6 or heading south to London, on the M1 in the fast lane and obeying the speed limit, as Ben hinted at this morning. He knows when you and I have a cappuccino with a friend in Costa, or Starbucks, or wherever may be your preferred option. How do I know that God knows? Take a look what he says down there in verse 3. We can summarize it like this, can't we? Every moment you know where I am. And my friend, that is so wonderfully true, isn't it? That is true in those major life-changing events. But it's no less a reality when you and I are engaged day after day, handling the boringly insignificant trivia that make up your life and mine. He knows every single one. There is nothing he does not know. But even more wonderful, through it all and in it all, what does the Lord do? Well, we glean from down there in verse 5 in the New Living Translation that he places his hand of blessing on our head. Did you get that? He places his hand of blessing on our head. And you know, my friends, that's all that really matters in your life and mine, isn't it? That we might know the best, bountiful blessing of God resting upon us. You know, he knows what you and I will never ever know. He knows what you and I are not even meant to know. So as you reflect in your life, and I do the same in mine as we draw near to the end of another year, a different kind of a year it has been, hasn't it? But through all the twists and turns on life's tortuous journey, we can say this morning with confidence, Father knows. Father knows. In fact, I would take it a step further and say today, Father knows best. And that's exactly what David is reminding us of right here. He knows my heart. He knows my actions. He knows my word. He knows my life. No wonder, my friends, did David exclaim down there in verse 6, such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It's too great for me to know. You see, dear friends, any time we ponder God, any time you and I take a moment and focus on the intensity of his presence, that should always lead us to worship and to adore our great God of heaven. So the first thing we discover this morning is simply this, that God's perception is astonishing. Thank God he knows. The next paragraph is no less enthralling, because it will stretch from verse 7 away down to the end of verse 12. Do you know what it tells me right here? That God's presence is awesome. Did you notice that? God's presence is awesome. In other words, it's something unavoidable. So what have we discovered so far today? Number one, we can't outwit God, because he knows all there is to know. And then right here in the second paragraph, we can't outrun God either. I mean, the punchline is this: it doesn't matter where we go, he is there already. Because that's what you have down there in verse 7, isn't it? The psalmist is sharing his experience of life, and he says, I can never get away from your presence. And then he does something similar here as he did in the first stanza. You see what he's doing? He says, you can climb to the summit of the highest mountain. Yeah? He says you can sink like a stone to the depths of the ocean. He says you can follow the sun when it rises in the east and it sets in the west. He says you can travel from here beyond these shores to the ends of the earth. Guess what? Guess what? North, south, east, west, up or down. Do you know what the message is? Our God is already there. Here is one who is inescapable. And you know, my friend, the will not go away fact today is simply this, that whether we're here or there or over yonder, the Lord is with us. God is with us. We can never ever shake him off our trail. We are never ever beyond the divine reach. And that means two things according to what he says down there in verse 10, doesn't it? Number one, he will lead us, guide us with his very own hand. And number two, he will support us and strengthen us. Do you know, my friends, for you and me today and every day, we can sink our teeth into those twin promises in verse 10. And guess what? If we live in light of them, potentially they are life-changing. They are. You know, it's so easy for you and I to let all of this stuff go right over the top of our head. I mean, we can feel a tad overwhelmed just with the sheer wonder of it all. But let me put it like this. Even though we can't really explain it, don't let that rob you of the joy and the thrill of living in the good of it. Take another look at the psalm. Did you see how intimate it all is? He knows us. He leads us. He holds us. He keeps our head above water. And the psalmist is telling us right here that no depth is too deep for him. No distance is too far for him. And no darkness is too dense for him. Beloved friends, that's what we discover, is it not? When we lift the lid on verse 11 and in verse 12. Because let's be honest, my friends, there are those moments in your life and mine, what we often call the dark hours of the soul. Moments in your life and mine when for whatever reason we feel as if God has walked out and forgotten all about us. We have those seasons of sorrow and distress when we can feel enveloped in an inky black darkness. But you know, the psalmist is teaching us right here that even there and even then, the Lord is with us. Now, I can testify to that, and I'm sure many of you can testify to it as well. But let's not take our word for it. You go back and read about Daniel in a den of lions. You read about the 3 young Hebrew men tossed into a blazing fiery furnace. What was their testimony? In their hour of trial, God was in it with them. And that's what the psalmist means when he says what he does down there. The dark times are light to God. I often think of it like this. It makes no difference to him if it's 12 noon or 12 midnight. No difference to him. But he's the one who makes a difference to you and to me. He sees you, even though you can't see him. And the lovely thought that we have right here is that our God is not a fair weather friend. Thankfully, he's not. Do you know what that means? It means he's with us on the bright, warm, sunny days. But he's also ever so near and is close by when we find ourselves in the shade and in the shadow. His presence is awesome. Third stanza begins down there at verse 13 and goes down as far as verse 18. Do you know what David is telling us right here? That God's power is amazing. You see what he does here? He shines a torchlight, as it were, on the ability of our God. And we sang about him earlier today, didn't we? This God is a hands-on God. He's a God who can do anything. So let's recap. Number one, we can't outwit him because he knows all there is to know. We can't outrun him because he's all over the place. But right here, number three, we certainly can't outdo him. Why? Because your God and mine is a God who is all-powerful. We read these words in the Message. You know exactly how I was made, bit by bit, how I was sculpted from nothing into something. You see, folks, that's a reminder, isn't it, that on the morn of creation, here is the God who brought something out of nothing. Here is the same one, according to Solomon in Ecclesiastes, who made everything beautiful in his time. So, you see what David's doing right here? In that first section, verses 1 to 6, he was more or less thinking about himself, and that's okay. But then we look at the second section, 7 to 12. He was focusing on the big world out there. Now you see what he's doing in the third section. Well, he's looking into his mother's womb. And what David sees leaves him spellbound. I mean, this guy is a writer. He has no trouble with putting words to prose, as it were. And what he sees leaves him lost for words. He can't even describe his feelings or his emotions. So down there in verse 14, he just bursts forth in fulsome praise and in adoring wonder. And he says, I praise you, because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. Do you know what that is? That's a fitting tribute to the skills of a creator God. I mean, don't we see it in the world all around us? We see it in the lives of men and women, boys and girls, on a global scale. And the truth of the matter is this, that no two of us are alike. You have your DNA that is unique to you, and I have mine. We leave our own footprint on the sands of time. Somebody said, tongue-in-cheek, I hope, when God made me, he threw away the mold. There's only one of me, but there's only one of you. And that's what the psalmist teaches us right here, that every fiber of our being, it was formed and fashioned by him. He's the one who knits it all together with a deft touch. The bones, the vital organs, the tissue, the veins, the muscle, the tendons. He says all of this is woven like a tapestry in a young mother's womb. In fact, the Hebrew word that is used there in verse 13 could actually be translated embroidered. Isn't that a lovely thought? In fact, the other 8 times that verb is used in the Old Testament, it describes the needlework in the curtains of the tabernacle and in the clothing of the priestly garments. Do you know what that tells me, my friend? That you and I are handcrafted by God alone. Now, those who are in the know, they tell me that every one of us has over 3 trillion cells in our body. Now, that's a 3, okay, with 12 zeros coming after it. Hey, my friend, think about it. Only God can do that. He is the master artisan. And it's a reminder, especially in these times in which we're living, that here is a God who was there at the moment of conception. And he is right there up to the moment of birth. The Lord is there and in full control. He has his hand on that young mum. He has his finger on that unborn child. He knows what's going on inside the darkness of a mother's womb. When that little person arrives into the world, gives a bit of a cry, the Lord knows what its future will be. That's what the psalmist is telling us. It's also reminding us that God is pro-life. My friend, that's breathtaking. It's phenomenal, isn't it? Because he goes on to tell us here that the Lord knows how long we will live on this planet. He's got a note of it in a journal somewhere in glory. He knows the day that we were born, but he also has penciled in the date of our death. It's a somber thought on a Sunday morning. The Getty's put it like this: from life's first cry to final breath, Jesus commands my destiny. And at the very same time, we also read down there, don't we, that every moment was laid out before a single day had passed. Do you know what that really means? It means that he knows exactly what you and I are doing 24/7. You've probably got a diary, a schedule, and things marked in it that you're planning to do this incoming week. And that's fine, that's okay, not a problem with that. It may happen, it may not happen. It may exceed your wildest dreams. It may not. But you can plan for today, and you can plan for tomorrow, and you can plan for next year, and even the very next decade. And I tell you, only God knows. Only God knows. Nothing takes him by surprise. He's never caught on the back foot. He's got a plan for your life and mine. It's a matter of us discovering what it is, and then going out there and doing his perfect will. And one more time, having thought about all of this, our friend David is knocked off his feet. I mean, he is bowled over with the reality of it all. These great truths are immensely meaningful and precious to him. They mean so much to him. That's what keeps him plodding on day after day. In fact, David says down there, doesn't he? There are so many of them. They're like the grains of sand on the beaches of the world. He thinks about the Lord. But to crown it all, the Lord never stops thinking about him. Even when he wakes up in the morning and a new day has dawned, a new day in time, a new day in eternity, the Lord is still there. Come on, folks, for you and for me. Life is amazingly complex, isn't it? But David knows that his God can do anything except fail, because nothing is too difficult for him. Nothing is too hard for him. His power is amazing. That leads us into the final section, spanning verses 19 to 24. Do you know what we discover right here? That God's purity is astounding. His purity is astounding. Yeah, we can't outwit him. We can't outrun him. We certainly can't outdo him. And the psalmist teaches me right here, we certainly can't outshine him. Because here is a God who is dazzling in his brilliant holiness. In many ways, what you have in this final paragraph, it's almost like an anticlimax, isn't it? But the lovely thought behind it is this, that David is facing reality head on. He doesn't bury his head in the sand. He knows a thing or two about the old enemy. So right here he tells it just like it is. And many calls a spade a spade. And if we're honest, there are times in your life and in mine when we feel just like David. Let me take what he says and bring it right up to date in 2020. Do we not wish the Lord would intervene in people's lives? Do we not long for the day when God would step into a situation and turn it right side up? Do we never pray for God to work a miracle and to stem the tide of evil sweeping across our nation? Do we not get hot under the collar when we see injustice in whatever form it may take? Do we not cringe when we hear that precious, lovely name of Jesus used for punctuation or another time dragged into the gutter? Are we not heartbroken when we read the evening news or watch the television news and we hear of lives being lost, wasted tragedies? That's what David's talking about right here, folks. And it seems to me the bottom line is down there in verse 22, where it says that your enemies are my enemies. In other words, we can't sit on the fence when it comes to the kingdom of Jesus Christ. We can't be neutral when it comes to biblical standards and raising the flag for personal godliness. You see, dear friends, we can't really understand this epic psalm unless we keep these verses in there. Because when bad things are happening to us, and when evil is all around us, that's why, and that's when we need the presence of God. And then it all gets very personal, doesn't it? In the final couple of verses, he scratches where we're itching. You see, here is David's all-consuming passion. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Know my anxious thoughts. And we have anxious thoughts, don't we? And then he goes on to say, see if there is any offensive way in me. Lead me in the way everlasting. Beloved, it's easy for me to point the finger at others. It's easy to lay the blame at another man's door. But right here, on bended knee, before the cross, before that higher throne, we take a long, hard look inside our own lives. And David reminds us here, doesn't he, that ultimately whatever happens is in the hand of a sovereign God. Because God's holiness not only impacts on those who are wicked, and it does, it also leaves an indelible impression upon your heart and mine as well. Basically right here, and with this I finish. David wants to be all that God intended for him to be. He wants to find his full potential realized in a closer walk with God. Why? Because David knows full well, if he's going to influence his generation for God, then he's got to be a man after God's own heart, doesn't he? It was a saintly Robert Murray McShane who noted that a holy man is an awesome weapon in the hand of a holy God. And in light of this prayer, maybe our cry should be again with Mr. McShane, Lord, make me as holy as it is possible for a saved sinner to be. Behold our God, his power, his presence, his perception, his purity. I hope that little Johnny in the story at the very beginning a few minutes ago, that we have caught a glimpse today, a vision of how great and how big and how glorious is our great God. You see, friends, it's not the size of the man that matters. That doesn't enter into it. The question for you and me to ask ourselves this morning is simply this: how big is our God? Amen. We're going to sing a lovely hymn. It's probably a fairly new one, I'm sure, for many of you. And when we do that, we're going to pray at the very end, were I to cross from land to land and sail afar by sea, descend the depths or climb the heights, And here's the message, my friends. My Lord remains with me. Let's sing it together, shall we?